I forget what lies behind and I push forward to the goal. Now, we're saved already. We're not running a race to see who comes first and gets to heaven. We're running a race to finish the race. I hate sport. You might have gathered this, right? But when people come into the marathon, at the finish line of the marathon, on any, like whether it's the Olympics or anything, you know the last person still gets clapped? Because he's just run 40 kilometres, or she's just run 40 kilometres. And they go, you know what? That's clap worthy. You finish the race. You run with perseverance. Why do we do this? Why do we push on? Look at the end of the chapter. He, that is Jesus, will transform the body of our humiliation, that it may be conformed to the body of his glory by the power that also enables him to make all things subject to himself. This is not the end. We are not the pinnacle of creation. Our transformed heavenly bodies is where it's at. That's where we're going. And so when our lives revolve around our looks, our bank account, our computers, our World of Warcraft accounts, our whatever it is, anything that is aside from Jesus, that will perish. That will go. Literally, people's gods were their stomach. Like they just lived for what they could eat. And we look at that and go, it's stupid. We look at people who are worshipping things of stone and wood and go, how could you be so idiotic? That's just crazy. I've got to watch my football. How could you worship money? What's my bank account? Don't get distracted by other things. Those other things, just quietly, are idolatry. Push on. Keep running the race. And he finishes this section with, therefore, brothers and sisters, whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, stand firm in the Lord in this way, my beloved. Stand firm. You know how you know who wins a fight? It's the person who's still standing up. It's the person who's not on the deck. Paul says, stand firm. You don't have to win any massive victories. You just have to keep going. And that is hard work. I'm not a distance runner. As Gimli says in the movies, dwarves are wasted on long distance. We're more sprinters. And I feel like that. Not that I'm much of a sprinter. and pushing on, persevering, it's hard. It takes guts. It takes determination. And when you're under about 50, you think 10 years is a long stretch. But it's nothing. I'm asking you guys to push on, some of you, for 50, 60 years. I want you to spend the rest of your life worshipping God, worshipping Jesus, pushing on to heaven. Don't get distracted by your tummy. Don't get distracted by your wallet. Don't get distracted by anything that is going to take you away from Jesus, because that's fake. You end up worshipping McDonald's or something to fill your gut. That's crazy. I could have said KFC or whatever, but more people go to McDonald's than KFC. So.
Just because I'm more informed.
So, any questions? Yes, Emma.
What does it look like to run the race and to stand up?
You don't fall over.
I mean, practically on like a.
I think that's exactly what I meant. Where's your focus? Where's your attention? Is it on other stuff? That's how you. So you buy a phone, okay, or you go on an overseas trip, or you. Those things are good and they're fine. But let me give you an example. Money's always a good way to judge how people are going. So, hey guys. So if you look at your budget and you go, well, I want to go overseas and I'm going to eat. That's a good thing. I'm going to pay rent. Wow, there's nothing left for being generous. Those are the things that I give prior attention. I'm picking on overseas trip because you get upset, which I commend you. But if you look at your account and you go, okay, here's my budget, and so I want to be generous. So boom, there's that. I've got to eat and I've got to pay rent. Oh, and there's a little bit left over for whatever. Then you can see where your attention is focused. Too often, people look at, money's a great example because that's common to all people almost. And too often what I think is important is the first things to come out. And then being generous, either to church or other people, comes at the end and it's scraps. Whereas God gives us to be generous. So the easiest way for people to say, how am I going is, what am I doing with my cash? That's the easiest way. But it's not the only one. So if something comes up and you go, so for the guys who are youth group, guys come to the youth group every week, that's great. Or church, it's great, love it. But when something else starts becoming more important than meeting with God's people, you ask the question, what's going on there? So, for example, I've had people at youth group who go every week they're at youth group. 1 week they go, there's a party on, it's a good friend, I really feel like I've got to go. Yeah, I understand that. I'm not going to stress out about that. But, I've got a party this week. I've got to work. I've got something else on. Dude, you came once last term. Like, where are you at? It will show itself in patterns more than in one-offs. Okay, so there's a one-off thing happens, that's okay. But if you find the pattern is there's a one-off and there's a one-off and there's a one-off, what you find is that you put Jesus lower than your mates. That's a bad place for Jesus to be. Okay? So money and time are our two big indicators for where we're at. And you'll find that in business. So someone will say, what's your most important business that you do? And you go, oh, well, I think it's, whatever. And then they'll say, well, let's look at your diary. And you say that's your most important business, but you spend 10% of your time on it. You spend 90% of your time doing this. How are you going to change that? So, it's where you put your priorities. Other questions? I won't pick on everyone, I promise. Does that help? So, sorry, before we go, having said all that stuff about money and stuff, I'm not saying don't spend money on stuff, don't enjoy it, because God gives us money for a reason. But if it's always me and never anyone else, there's a problem.